Williamson County Beekeepers Association here with us again this year. Jim Garrison is always doing a great job along with the Williamson County Beekeepers Association and sponsoring the honey and bee booth here at the Williamson County Fair. And Jim has brought some trays of honey, some frames, yes, and the community extractor, I think, is what the club owns, the extractor. And it's always interesting to listen to his explanation and his story about bees. And we're glad to have him back again this year. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate it. Lee's the chairman of the agriculture exhibit here at the fair, so does a great job. Appreciate what he does. He really does a good job putting this on. As Lee said, I am Jim Garrison. I'm part of the Beekeepers of Middle Tennessee. We meet right here at the Ag Expo Center on the second Thursday night of each month at 6:30, and we have about an hour and a half meeting. We talk about beekeeping. That's what we do, because that's what we are, a beekeeping organization. So if you'd like to be a part of that, you come and be with us. We'd love to have you. We have a lot of new folks coming to our club, and they come in for a few months, and if they're interested, they stay. If they're not, they don't. So we have a good time. We have a booth just down the way here, so stop by and see our booth and see our exhibits. I'm going to talk some generalities about honeybees and honey. This is my granddaughter, Sadie, and she's going to help me with this demonstration a little bit. She loves to help me in the honey house. So anyway, Sadie's going to help me in a few minutes when we get things started. I want to ask you some questions about honeybees. There are three castes or types of bees in the hive. We're going to start with that. Okay. Can you name one of those types of bees? Raise your hand.
Drone.
The drone, yes, that's the first time I've had that answer first. What is the drone? It's the male bee inside that hive. It's the male bee inside that hive. Now, the drone bee does not basically do any work. They don't go out and get nectar and pollen. The drone bee mates with the queen and eats honey. They're lazy, I guess we could say. Those guys are a little bit lazy. But they serve an important function in the hive. What's another caste or type of bee? The queen bee, yes. Now, here's an interesting thing about honeybees. When God created this insect, he knew what he was doing. He did it just right. But it's amazing some of the things that they do. There's only one queen, generally speaking, in that hive. For you guys that are married, how many queens are at your house? One. I can tell you that. And that's true in the hive. You have one queen. Now that queen in the spring and summer will lay 1,500 to 2,000 eggs per day. Per day. When she's active in the spring and summer. In the fall, she eases up a little bit, doesn't lay that many eggs, and in winter, of course, when it's too cold, she doesn't lay any eggs because they've got to keep those eggs warm, or they wouldn't hatch. So she'll lay up to 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day in springtime. Now that's a lot of eggs. They'll stay in the egg stage for about 3 or 4 days. That egg actually hatches, if you will. Then it turns into a larva. And in 21 days, if it's a worker bee, they emerge from the cell. If it's a drone bee, they take 24 days to emerge from the cell. They don't hatch from the cell. Remember, they hatched from an egg into a larva, but they emerge out of that cell. And if it's a queen cell, that's 16 days. I'm sorry, 16 days. All of a sudden, my numbers left me. 16 days for a queen. Now, let me back up and get back on track. There's another caste that's inside that hive. What's the name of it? Worker bee, exactly. Worker bee are virgin females. They're all girls. Most of the bees in that hive are workers. By far, the majority of the bees in that hive are workers. The worker is responsible for gathering nectar, for gathering pollen, for cleaning the hive, for gathering water, for taking care of the queen. Everything, every kind of a job in that hive, the worker is in charge of. And they do that at the direction of the queen. Okay? The queen directs all of that work in there, but the workers are the ones that does all the work. Now, worker bee will live about 45 days in the spring and summer because they wear their wings out flying so much. It's not because that's their life expectancy, except that they wear their wings out flying. I have a picture, my wife took a picture of a bee on a bloom at our house that about 2/3 of one wing was just torn off. And that bee probably did not make it back to the hive. So what happens is the worker bee, on one of her trips to get nectar or pollen or water or whatever she's taking back to the hive, either going back to get another load or coming in, she loses so much of that wing she falls to the ground and she dies. Okay? So that's why she only lives about 45 days. Now, I told you the queen lays 1,500, 2,000 eggs a day. So there's a lot of worker bees that's dying every day. But she has a lot of bees that she's creating, a lot of eggs that she's laying. So she's got plenty of, if she's a good queen, she's got plenty of workers in there to do the job. A mature hive of bees will have 40, 50 to 60,000 bees in that hive. That's a lot of bees, but it takes a lot of bees to make honey. Now, I want to ask you another question. How much nectar does one worker bee bring to the hive her entire life? Not quite. About 1/8 of a teaspoon. So it takes 8 honeybees all their life to make 1 teaspoon of honey. So the next time you eat a teaspoon of honey, you know that 8 bees gave their life for that honey. So a pound of honey, well, that takes a lot, doesn't it? It takes a lot. Okay. Another interesting thing about the queen, and then we're going to do an extraction here and tell you about that. The queen lays eggs for drones and workers. Now remember I said the drone is the male bee. The worker is a female, a virgin female, and she lays eggs for both of those, and they hatch and emerge as either a drone or a worker. Now I had a question asked me several years ago, somebody in an audience similar to this, that said, wait a minute, if a drone, and the drone eggs are not fertilized, that's how they become drones. How does an egg hatch without being fertilized? I don't know the answer. I know it happens, but I don't know the answer. So she lays eggs for the drones and the workers. She fertilizes the worker eggs. She does not fertilize the drone eggs. I can't explain it, but that's the way it works. Okay, we know that that's the way it works. Explain it. We're going to have to ask the Lord one of these days. Say, how in the world did you create that? Now, another interesting thing about the queen. After the queen emerges, by the way, if the queen is failing, that hive will make a new queen. They will make a new queen. And basically the way that's done is they pick out a particular worker egg that they know is going to be a female. They feed that larva, what's it called? Royal jelly, thank you. Yeah, my brain quit working. Feed that one royal jelly all its life. A regular, quote, regular bee gets royal jelly for about 3 days. Then they get a regular diet. But the queen cell gets royal jelly all of its life, and that's the reason it develops so quickly and in 16 days emerges. Now, when she emerges, of course, the old queen usually leaves in a swarm, or she's killed, or maybe she has been killed or died or whatever. And so it's queenless, so this new queen is created. After a day or two in the hive, she will go on a mating flight where she will mate with 15 to 20 drones. She never mates again, but she'll lay eggs for 2 or 3, 4 years. Okay? Now that's amazing in and of itself when you think that she's going to lay 1,500 eggs a day, and she'll do that for months on end, but she only mates one time in her life with 15 to 20 different drones. So it's amazing. It's just amazing things they do. Now let's talk a little bit about a hive. This is a semblance of a hive. We've got a hive back there at the booth that is set up. You can see how it works. But this is a medium super box. It's also called Illinois Super because that's the size of it. And this is where they store the honey. Now, I'm sorry, baby. On the bottom of the hive, there's an opening that those bees go in and out of. In the wintertime, I just wanted to show you some of the equipment. In the wintertime, we will put an entrance reducer on that hive similar to this. That just goes in front of that hive, and then there's not so much room for things to get in and out of the hive. Now, why do we do that? Mainly to keep out mice. Mainly to keep out mice for the winter because they're going in and build a nest. When those bees are clustered real close to each other in the wintertime trying to stay warm, the mice will get in there and build a nest, and then you've got a 2 or 3 frames at least that's ruined in there. So we put an entrance reducer in there in the wintertime to try to keep the mice out. And if we wait too late and the mice get in there, well, they build a nest. Okay. Another tool that we use, this is called a hive tool. It's used for a lot of things. If you look at the way that's designed, you can pull nails with it. And we usually go inside the box and pry away the frames because they're stuck a lot of times with propolis. We call it bee glue, but it's propolis that they get from trees. And we can pry that out because you can't lift it out by your hands a lot of times. It's just stuck too hard. It's really, really tough. It's also a good back scratcher if you need to scratch back. But anyways, that's a hive tool. Now I bet all of you know what this is. It's a smoker. Now let me clear up a myth about a smoker. A lot of people says when you smoke the bees, it puts them to sleep. No, it does not. It simply distracts them. Now I'm told that when a bee smells smoke, that they think there's a fire around. Well, naturally, I would too if I smelled smoke if I didn't know better. And because their natural habitat, or one of their natural habitats, is hollow trees. So they think, oh, the forest is burning, so I smell smoke. So what do? They go inside the hive, gorge themselves with honey, because they think they're going to have to leave. Okay? So that attracts them to doing that kind of a maneuver and distracts them from paying attention to me. And I like it that way. I do get stung. That is a regular item that takes place. But bee stings, it has been determined, if you will, that honeybee stings helps a lot of joint problems, arthritis, and those kinds of things. I saw a documentary of a lady one time that had MS so badly she was in a wheelchair. Somebody told her to get some bee stings. They called it bee sting therapy, which is what it is. They said, get some bee stings, that'll help you. She started taking 20 stings a day. A year later, she was playing volleyball with her kids. So does it work? It does for most people. Okay? My dad died when he was 84. He kept bees all of his life. He had very little arthritis in his body because he got stung a lot. Does it hurt? Absolutely. I have people say, yeah, but you're used to it. It doesn't hurt. Yes, it does. It still hurts. But I get my arthritis medicine, So, it's not all bad. Okay. Inside this box, this is a honey super, and inside this box, on a regular beehive, we will have 9 frames in there. A regular hive will normally carry 10 frames, but we put a spacer in there, which is what this is. That's a spacer, and it pulls that down to 9 frames. The reason we do that is because when they pull this frame out, now these are not pretty frames, I'll tell you that. I had trouble getting some frames today. I've extracted my spring honey, so I don't have much left. But anyway, they will pull this comb out away from the frame, so it's easier to uncap it, so that we can spin it out. Now, the bees build this. This is comb. Thank you, baby. That's made out of what? Beeswax. Bees make the wax. I've had people say, well, what's beeswax made of? I said, it's made of beeswax. They make it. Now, they eat honey. They have a wax gland underneath their body, And this is the young bees. It's not it's the house bees they're called before they become worker bees, before they become foragers and go out and start getting nectar and pollen. So they make the wax and they build this comb. We don't have to tell them how. We don't have to show them how. They know how. Okay? So they build these cells. Now, if you could see this frame cut this way and look at it, you would see that those cells are slanted about 15 degrees toward the center of that frame. Now, why do you think they do that? To keep the honey in. When they bring nectar into this hive, it's got a lot of moisture in it, and it would just run out if it wasn't slanted so it stays in there. Then they dry it with their wings, and then they cap it or seal it. This is capped or sealed, okay? They seal it with wax. This side is not sealed. I shouldn't have taken this out, but I wanted to do it for the demonstration. Because normally when it's not sealed, it's not ready to extract because it's not dry enough. So this honey will probably have a little bit too much moisture in it. But anyway, this is a regular frame inside this medium super or Illinois super it's called sometimes. Okay? Now, I want to show you this frame. Hold that one right there, baby. Just hold it right now. Just hold that one. I'll hold this one. You see the difference in the size of these? That one's a little bit longer or deeper. This one is called a shallow frame. That one is called a medium or Illinois frame. They're different size. So they'll hold different amounts of honey, of course. Now, a full super of honey with this size will weigh, there'll be 30 to 35 pounds of honey in that super. In this one, you'll have 25 to 30. So these are a lot lighter. The grayer my hair gets, the better these feel. They're not quite as heavy to lift. Because a frame, a medium super packed full of honey with all the woodenware and everything will weigh 50 to 60 pounds. And that's a lot of weight to pick up. I've had colonies before that I've had 4 and 5 supers stacked on top of each other full of honey. I had, and this is not uncommon, I'll have to take a 6-foot step ladder to get on the step ladder and get up there and get those top ones off, because you can't take them off from the bottom. You got to take them off from the top. That's a little bit treacherous, because when you get up there and you get 50 or 60 pounds that you're lifting up and try to step down that ladder, you have to be careful. So there is work involved. Okay, I'm going to entertain questions, and then we're going to extract these frames, and then you can taste some honey. Any questions from anybody? Yes, ma'am. How long does it take to fill up a frame? Depends on the flow or we call it a honey flow when they're bringing in a lot of nectar. So it depends on the honey flow. If we've got a good honey flow, they will fill up a box in a week or 10 days. Okay, if there's a good honey flow. I'll give you an example. We used to live out in Arrington, and we had 4 very large tulip poplar trees in our yard. It's a very good nectar source for bees. And one year I had 7 colonies at the back of my house, and I got a super of honey a week for about 4 weeks off on those hives. So if it's a good honey flow, they'll fill them up quickly. Okay, if they're good bees. If you got a good full hive and there's a lot of bees in there working, they'll fill it up quickly. If it's a poor honey flow, like this, now this one right here, I extracted out of this colony about 3 weeks ago, I guess it was. So they've put enough in there to start sealing off part of it already. It's slow because there's not much nectar for them to get. In Middle Tennessee, we get our largest production of honey or flow of honey in the spring of the year. And when summer arrives, there's just not much that they get nectar off of. There's a lot of flowers, but they don't produce nectar that they get nectar from. Okay? Other questions? Does rain affect the honey? Absolutely. Sure does. If there's too much moisture in the air or rain in the air, this wax and the honey will absorb moisture. So you'll have too much moisture in that honey. If honey is above about 19% in moisture content, it will ferment or crystallize or both. Okay? And when it ferments, you don't want to eat it. I mean, some people make mead from it, and that's a process of fermentation. But I don't want mine to crystallize. I don't want mine to ferment. I want mine to stay like it is. So you want to get anywhere from 17 to 18, maybe 19% humidity in there, and that's all. So rain will increase the humidity or the water content in that honey, and you've got to either wait till it dries out or dry it out with some kind of process before you process it, or it'll have too much and it'll crystallize on it. Good question. Others? Yes.
Is there any difference between the honey that comes from like Kroger's and honey that comes from individuals like yourself?
Let me restate that question a little bit differently. Is there a difference in the honey that you buy from a grocery store versus what I sell? The answer is absolutely. Most of, and I have to, I'm not being nasty toward or ugly toward grocery stores, okay? We all got to have them. But most of the honey in the grocery store comes from a big conglomerate organization that gets honey from everywhere in the United States and possibly in other countries even. That honey is heated to a certain degree for a certain number of hours for one main reason, and that's to keep it from crystallizing, okay? But what happens is about 25-30% of the nutrients goes out with steam, and the taste goes away too. If you are accustomed to buying honey from a local grocery store, look on the back of the label and see where it came from. If it says packaged by X, that tells you that most likely it's a conglomerate of honey from somewhere other than where you. And then taste of that honey versus the honey that you get from a local beekeeper, it's night and day difference. My grandson loves honey. My granddaughter loves honey too. But about 2 weeks ago, my wife took our grandson to breakfast, okay? And he ordered honey with his biscuit. He opened it up and tasted it. He said, "That stuff's not fit to eat." He said, "That's not good as granddad's honey." I said, "That boy knows." But it's an entirely different taste. And from a nutritional value, local honey that's not cooked, and most local beekeepers do not cook their honey, okay? It's a lot better for you, and it's a very good tasting honey usually. So yeah, it does make a difference. All right, good question. Others? Okay. All right, we're going to extract. This is called hey buddy, this is called a hot knife, and the purpose of this tool is to, hold that. The purpose of that knife is simply to unseal or uncap those frames, or that frame. Okay, you see where this is sealed right here? That's capped over or sealed. This side is sealed just a little bit. So what I'm going to do with that hot knife is cut the edge of that off. So I'm uncapping it, unsealing it. That way the honey will come out of those cells. Then we'll put it in this extractor that this is Marvin Waxter, our vice president of our club. And we're going to put it in that extractor, and it just simply spins it and spins the honey out of the frame. Okay? So let's. Yeah. All right, Sadie. Now I'm going to put this wax in a bucket, because the wax can be melted and made into candles. Okay. All right, let me see this, Sadie. No, you don't touch this. It's hot. I hope you can see this. I'm simply unsealed it or uncapped it, and that knife is hot. Now the best tasting honey is in that comb right there. Okay, Sadie, would you put that in the extractor for us?
You know how to do it, don't you? She knows how to do it.
Yes, she does. Now that was that shallow frame. I normally don't mix shallow and medium in the same spinning, because the extractor will be unbalanced. But I'm going to tonight. Uh-oh. All right, that one's not that one's not pulled out enough, so I'm gonna have to see if I can. I don't have a. I normally have a scraper that scrapes that off, but I didn't bring it, so. Check the other side. Okay, put that one in there, buddy. Oh, I want somebody to, I want you to, yeah. Just hold that frame for a second. Okay, hold it. How heavy is that? About 5 or 6 pounds, maybe? Okay. After we extract it, I'm gonna let you hold it. Now, the best tasting honey, as I said, the best tasting honey, or the best for you, is certainly in the comb. So, if you want to get the nearest to pure that you can get, the comb honey is the best to get. Now, my dad had. You need some help, baby? My dad had bees, and we ate comb honey most all the time. But people today, a lot of people says, what's comb honey? What do I do with that? And a lot of times when I say, well, you eat it, they say, eat it? That's wax. Well, yeah, eat it. It's just beeswax. Not going to hurt you. Now, it won't digest, but it'll go through. But most people don't know what to do with it. I tell them, I say, well, you can swallow it, or you can spit the comb out. Once you get all the honey out, spit the comb out.
Like chewing gum.
Like chewing gum. That's right. It doesn't blow bubbles, though. All right. Watch your hand, baby. Oops.
How long does it take to fill something like that?
Depends on the honey flow. How long does it take to fill one? If you've got a good honey flow coming in, they'll fill a whole super up, one of these whole boxes, in a week or 10 days. And then if you don't have a good honey flow, it may take 2 or 3 weeks or a month. Can you do it? Go ahead. All right. Go. Okay. Sadie helps me at home. She helps me when I extract. Okay, we're gonna. This is an extractor. Now, this extractor holds 6 frames. We obviously only have. Come on, Lucas. Come on, Lucas. You can help me. This is my grandson. Come here. Come here. Let him help too. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Lucas helps too. Come on.
Hey, Lucas.
Turn around. This extractor holds 6 frames. We've only got, it spins it, we've only got 3 in there now, of course, but this is owned by the Beekeepers of Middle Tennessee, our local club, as we told you. And we allow members to rent this to keep them from having to buy an extractor. Now, we charge a small fee to help us with maintenance on it, but and that's $25, right? Isn't that right? Yeah. And anyway, it holds 6 frames. It is electric, and it does a really good job. Along with that rental comes the hot knife so that you can uncap too. So we're going to spin this thing. You just hold this mic for me. No, Marvin's going to help me. Marvin and I are going to hold this in case it vibrates. So that could be interesting. Oh, you turned it on. So this is going to do is spin the honey out of those frames. No, it's on. Come here, Lucas. This is my grandson. He helps me some too. Come here and help us hold this down, Lucas. Sadie, you reach over there too. Marvin's going to help too. Now, if I had 6 frames in here all the same size, it wouldn't vibrate like this, probably. But we've got different sizes in there and only 3, and it'll walk on you a little bit. Questions while we're spinning. Won't take but just about 5 minutes maybe. Any questions? Y'all are quiet tonight.
How much wax can you get out of 6 frames?
Boy, that's a good question. I probably out of 6 frames you might get 3 or 4 ounces of wax. You don't get much. So the little bit of wax I got in here, it wouldn't be a good ounce. It takes a lot of wax to make candles, but it's good candles. It's good.
Is there any other use for the wax outside?
Any other use for the wax? Yeah, I have a guy that uses them for fishing. I don't know what, but he uses them for fishing. I don't know. Now, and you can use it for lip balm, sure. Wax is used in lip balms. It's used in hand creams some too. But wax is a very important byproduct of beekeeping, really. We sell some candles, so we make beeswax candles. Now, I'm gonna divert here a little bit off of honey and talk about beeswax a little bit. Beeswax candles, beeswax candles don't put out an odor like paraffin candles do. They don't smoke much, very little. When our daughter got married, we used beeswax candles in her wedding. And when we talked to the church about bringing candles, they said no, because we don't want the wax on the floor, which I totally agree with and understand. And I said, well, we are burning beeswax candles, it won't drip. So they let us use beeswax candles. Now, I'll tell you another thing about beeswax candles. If you have an odor in your house, like if you fry fish, for example, you have that fish smell. If you'll burn a few beeswax candles, that smell will be gone away. Now, the reason is because the smell of the beeswax will overcome the smell of the fried fish. And it smells a little bit like honey because it's made from honey. Are we not, wait, no, let's don't do it yet. No, let's not do it yet. Well, we're not going to drain it yet. It's not vibrating too bad. Other questions? Wait a minute.
What are some of the best plants that we can grow to help our bee population?
The best plants for bee population. There's a list of top 10 that are good for bees for nectar. Okay. Now let me answer that, but I'm going to talk about pollen because bees have to have pollen and nectar. Okay. We've got a lot of trees around here that provides a lot of pollen, so you don't have to worry about pollen in Middle Tennessee. We've got a lot of it. I mean, if you've got allergies to pollen, you know, there's just a lot of pollen around here. But to get the nectar, which is what the honey is made from, okay, there are several things you can plant. And I know if you've got an acre, you say, I can't plant clover. I don't want to plant clover. In Tennessee, the majority of our honey that's made has at least some clover, if not the majority of it is clover. We've got a lot of clover in Tennessee, and bees love it. They get a lot of nectar off of clover, okay? There's a plant called Vitex. It's also, that is a summer blooming plant. It's classified as a large shrub or small tree. It's also called chaste tree, C-H-A-S-T-E. Chaste tree. It's a summer blooming plant. So if you're concerned about providing nectar for the summer, plant you a few Vitex or chaste trees, and it's got a little bitty tiny purple bloom on it, and they love it. It makes a very dark amber honey, but it's got a good taste, and you'll love it. I've got 8 or 10 at my place. I love it. Hyssop is a very good plant that you can plant. It's perennial. You can plant in your flower garden. They love hyssop. Tulip poplars, if you want to plant a tree, tulip poplars are excellent sources for nectar. And boy, they'll provide a lot of honey. I was reading literature. I do a presentation on nectar and pollen plants for honeybees. And when I was doing the research on it, it talked about tulip poplar and said the tulip poplar is not a good one because it provides too much nectar. And I thought, how can you provide too much nectar? But that resource told me, and I believe part of it, that resource told me that there's so much nectar in there they can't get it and they get frustrated. Well, that's okay. Let them get frustrated. Just get all you want, big boy. I mean, just get all you want. Don't worry about it. So I'll plant tulip poplar trees. They're a very good source. Let's see. Clover, I said was good. Vetch, if you've got a field large enough, plant vetch. Sunflowers is in the top 10. I planted 3.5 acres of sunflowers this year. The bees loved it. The honey from sunflowers is a light to dark amber color. Got a good taste, I'm told, but it crystallizes quickly. So a good tasting honey. That's 3 or 4. All right, good question. Others, are you done? Are you done?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What's bee pollen?
What's bee pollen?
Yeah.
Bee pollen is the pollen that they get from the trees and bring back in the hive. Pollen is used for making bee bread, is what we call it. And they mix pollen and nectar together and feed that to the larvae. So we can collect the bee pollen with a pollen trap.
In the hive itself?
Yeah, well, it's a trap that traps the. Did we get any out? There we go. Oh, let's see.
Can y'all see it?
Can y'all see that? It's a very light color. Probably got a good bit of clover in there because it came off my place. It's probably got a lot of clover in there. There's a trap, and the way this trap works is we put it in the bottom of the hive, and they have to crawl through that trap before they get up in the hive, and it knocks the pollen off their legs, and then we collect it that way. That's a very laborious process because you got to do it every day. Pollen has a lot of moisture in it, and it will mold on you very quickly. So you got to get it every day, put it in the freezer, and stop that process. But it's got about 64 vitamins and minerals in it. Oh, it's fantastic. There you go. There you go. Okay, if you want a taste of this, we have popsicle sticks. You can come by and get you a taste of fresh honey. Just do it quickly because it will drip. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it.